Well, hello and welcome back to the basement. In this episode, I'm going to do something a little bit different. This is going to be kind of a chatty, kind of planning type video. What I mean by that is, I want to discuss specifically what the plan is for the channel for 2021. Got a lot of build ideas in my head that are knocking around, and I've dragged this year on with a slow start as long as I have already. It's time to get started on some real work. So this video is going to be a little bit different than traditionally what I do. I like to yammer a lot, and this one is probably going to be one of those because I really want to cover specifically what my plans are to do on the channel over the next 12 months or so. So I've been putting on the back burner a project for quite a while. That's going to be my next project. I'm sick of waiting and delaying on this because of indecision, and that's really what it's been about. It's been delaying this, and that is building acoustic panels. I've been trying to think of ways to do this that are interesting and not already played out, because there's thousands of videos on DIY acoustic panels made from rock wool and fabric. I want mine to be different. So already with the fabric that I've got lined up for this, by the way, thank you very much to Newcastle Fabrics for hooking me up with some scraps and offcuts for this build project. I'm sorry it's taking me so long to get to it, but I've been trying to decide on what shapes I want to do and then how I want to treat the room. My problem is I've got 7-foot ceilings in the room, and I've got lots of weird doors. I've got 4 doors in that room. Anyway, I'm going to save that for the first episode of that build project before I just get too way off track. Other things I want to build this year include a custom-based pedal board with a road case. So it'll be, really 2 projects in one. I think the pedal board will be the easier part, but I'm going to try some joinery I've not tried before. I really want to do dovetails. And I've only practiced a couple of times on hand cut dovetails, but I think that's what I want to do most of the joinery with. So I want to try that, and then build a road case for it. I also want to start building bases this year. I was considering trying to submit entries into both the kit build and the scratch build for the Great Guitar Build Off for 2021. That's being hosted by Crimson Custom Guitars, and I've decided I don't want my very first kit and or scratch build to be a part of a contest, because it's probably going to suck. Actually, it's probably not going to suck. I've done 2 kit builds by way of redoing the jazz bass that I have now, and as well as the P bass that I did late last year. So I feel confident that I can build a kit very, very successfully and add some cool touches and features to it. And that's what I intend to do first. So I want to do a kit, and then I want to move in toward doing a scratch build. The scratch build is going to be that later kind of project for a couple of reasons. There's still some tools that I need to line up to be able to do what I want to do for scratch builds, and the chief among them is a bandsaw with a nice resaw capacity of at least 10 to 12 inches. The little crappy benchtop one I have from Harbor Freight, first of all, it doesn't cut straight, and it's only got a resaw capacity of I think 3.5 inches, and it's just a really finicky, difficult to keep set up thing, but it's great for thinner stock when precision is not necessarily required. So I think I will keep a benchtop bandsaw. I don't know if it's going to be that one, but I really want to get one with some resaw capacity so that I can do some book match tops and basically cut necks. So that's the biggest tool requirement that I have right now. Other things I'd like to have but don't necessarily have to have would include an oscillating spindle / belt sander, and ideally a router table. Now again, I'm in a 90 square foot shop, and all of this has to fit here. I'm already outgrowing the shop, as you can see, just by the stuff that's on my walls here. You can't see the wall behind you. I'll cut to a couple still shots of that wall. So there's some room over there for some tools. And I've got, there's a hole in my heart right now because my jointer planer has been down since December. That's been the biggest expensive, the most expensive power tool that I've bought to date, is that jet jointer planer. And I knew it was an entry-level tool when I bought it. I didn't think it would have problems as soon as it did. I bought it in April of 2020, and it lasted me till December before the cutter head bearings disintegrated inside the tool. So I think it's only the cutter head bearing is on the side with the blade guard that retracts and the other side I think is a bushing. But anyway, Jet is taking care of it under warranty, although it's really slow, and I'm really not happy with their customer service and their response. It's taken forever to get any kind of response from them, and they did ship tools out to a licensed repair company through Fastenal, but for whatever reason they couldn't get it fixed. They got all the parts, they put them on, but it still didn't work. I think it's a really poor design to not have the cutter head be serviceable by way of the bearings. If those bearings seize, which is what happened, or they fail, the entirety of that tool has to be taken apart. And I didn't feel like a tool less than a year old should have to be going through something like that. So that's why I sent it off versus trying to fix it myself. So long story short, they're having to replace the tool, and because it's made overseas, in Asia, it's on back order, and there's no availability anywhere else in the country right now for this particular model. So I have to wait till June. So think about that, 6 months this thing will have been down before it's replaced. And that's assuming I get something out of the first batch that's shipped to the US. So I'm a little frustrated with that. Anyway, rant time over. I did pick up some new tools though. I picked up some old tools as well. So I'm gonna start with the old tools because I think these are gonna be helpful. So when my jointer went down, I started scavenging the interwebs for vintage planes, vintage hand planes. Yeah, my plane collection started with 2 planes. This Ohio King wood smoothing plane. So this is a total slab of beech, and then this Stanley Bailey number 4, most recently patented in 1910. So this was my father's. Both of these actually were my father's. And through the acquisition of a couple other planes recently, I've decided to restore this one a little bit. Didn't take any of the patina off. This thing is hard won its patina over many years, possibly several generations, because I believe this to be an early 1900s model. The rosewood tote has been broken and reattached. I did just get all the really bad surface rust off, and then steel wooled everything, and then I lapped the sole to get it flat, and it works great. So this is my first real plane. You saw me use this building the workbench when I had no idea how to work with a hand plane, much less set one up properly. But since then I've replaced all the junky Harbor Freight planes that I have. My goal was not necessarily to do that, it was just to find a number 7 jointer plane. And this is what I was able to bring home from Facebook Marketplace. This is, as best I can tell from people who know more than I do in Facebook Marketplace, this is a Fulton Tool corrugated number 7, all cast iron. The front handle is rosewood. This appears to be beech on the tote, or it just could be a lesser quality rosewood. It just doesn't have the same deep rosewood color. But this thing is just, to me, this is a really beautiful tool. It wasn't necessarily that beautiful when I got it, but I've picked this up, and I don't want to say done a restoration. I've got it serviceable. I didn't want to take too much. I didn't want to do a full-on restoration on this because I want this to be a user. Now, from what I'm told from this Facebook Marketplace, this is potentially made in 1904 just based on the castings of the frog. This was cast likely in a Stanley factory in the US, not in England, in approximately 1904, making this actually a rare example that because it's a corrugated sole. So I want to preserve its integrity by just getting it functional again. I don't want to try and redo any of the Japanning or anything like that. So I've taken all the really bad surface rust off, much the same way that I did with this. Actually, I did this one first. So you got a nice brownish patina on the sides of the sole. I have lapped the sole here, with the exception of just there is low spots on the nose and the heel, but that's fine. The rest of this is perfectly flat. So there's about 1 inch slight taper where it's a low spot on both the nose and the heel of the plane. man, this thing just cuts so great. I've only got a 1000 grit finish or sharpening finish on the irons, but this thing just, oh, it's beautiful. I love this plane. This is awesome. I'm so happy to have this in the workshop. It is huge though, and it doesn't really fit well on my tool wall. So I had to move this one down, and I put the number 5 that I got earlier last year up on the wall. So when I picked this up, it came as a set of 3. The other one was this, not very valuable, but still very cool, Stanley Handyman. This is probably a 60s model. This is their entry-level plane. Very, very similar to what you would find a Harbor Freight model plane of today. But this one's made way better than a Harbor Freight because it actually is tunable and it will keep a tune. The only thing that's not cool about this is the machining marks are really, really, really coarse. It's like they used 40 grit sharpening stones to set the milling marks on this. So I've taken a lot of that out, but not 100%. And you can see I've got some pitting here at the nose, but this thing still takes really good shavings. Again, I've got a 1000 grit finish on the irons. I'm not worried about this thing being pretty, but this did replace one of my Harbor Freight planes, the Windsor Designs model, or branded model. And I also got a legit block plane. I like this block plane. This is a vintage Stanley number 203. The only thing wrong with it really is it's missing the front knob, and there's a little bit of a low spot just behind the throat of the block plane, but it's nothing that affects the functionality of it. I could lap that out, but it's not, I don't think it's a problem. It's not preventing this thing from doing its job. So again, very, very light restoration. Just knock the rust off, lap the sole a little bit, but not too much, sharpened her up, and this is going to be a good replacement for that junky one that I had. So that brings me to a couple other tools that have been behind me. I've been wanting to buy these for a long time, but before I get there, I just want to show off my vintage square. I don't know who makes this square. This square was the very first marking tool I ever used to cut wood with as maybe a 7 or 8 year old. So this has been in my family for a long, long time. I was able to rescue it from my father's basement when I picked up his Bailey number 4, and this one I've had for a long time. But I've been hesitant to restore this or even touch it because to me it's just got such character and such sentimental value to me. I didn't want to ruin that. But after, applying the strategy that I did to this Fulton number 7 in the Bailey number 4, I thought it was time. And I'm just so thrilled with how this turned out. I'll get some close-up shots here in just a second. But I left the patina on the steel as much as possible. I did lap the edges to make them straight and true again, so there's no humps or valleys. I did the same with the brass here, but not as much. This thing is within a degree to a half a degree of perfect square in this beautiful rosewood handle. I never even knew what wood it was, but this is definitely a rosewood from at least what it looks like to me. Again, all I did was wire brush and steel wool, and then I put a thin coat of Danish oil on it just to inhibit rust, and I buffed it out a little bit after applying the oil. And this thing is just, I hope this goes down to my kids one day. This is just to me, it's a very cool piece. I love that tool. Anyway, the other things that I've got here that are new are Crimson Guitar tools. I've been wanting to order these for a long time. I finally bit the bullet. It was my Christmas present to myself, and I paid full price. I didn't get a discount. No, I didn't even apply the discount code that was offered. I think they usually have a 5 or 10% discount that you can get if you're just patient and watch their videos on YouTube, which I would imagine most people who watch this channel certainly watch Ben Crow over Crimson. And anyway, I wanted to support them because, well, I could have got cheaper tools off of Amazon, absolutely. They probably wouldn't have been as good, but I wanted to support a company and a maker that inspired me to try and take this up. And I thought that was important to me. So to me, that was worth a little bit of a premium price. Besides, they're still way cheaper than StuMac. So I bought their Luthier Starter Kit, slightly modified because they were out of the notched base straight edge. So I just asked them to substitute that for just a regular straight edge because they've been out of the notched straight edge for a long period of time. And they were gracious enough to do that for me. Also, I got in that kit comes a 18-inch leveling beam. This one has a different finish. It's more of an anodized finish. It was probably out of a different production run than the rest of the pieces, which is kind of annoying, and it doesn't have the Crimson logo on it, so I don't know what's up with that. Probably a slight quality control issue or just something that slipped past, just based on availability from different production runs. So they were probably experimenting with finishes, and this one just snuck out as part of a kit with later finishes. Also, I got their 8-inch leveling beam. I actually use this. This is what I use to lap the edges of my square. And then I've got their front rocker that came in the kit. And then let's see here, what else did I add? What else came from them? Oh, files. Got some cool files. So to do fretwork with, their small detailed file, and then their triangle file. These both have safe edges, and of course handmade handles. Also, what came with this starter kit was their fretting hammer, which is actually really cool. It's just a brass cylinder married to, I assume, scrap guitar wood, which I really love that idea. Then let's see, what else did I get from Crimson? Oh, what came with that also was some fret rubbers of varying grits. So you got those. And my dog got a hold of the coarse one and tried to eat it, which is not cool. And then last but not least from Crimson came their fret rest, their rocking fret rest doodad for whatever, their neck rest. And this one's really cool. I don't know what it is. It's not maple because it's just too doggone light, but it's got this beautiful spalting finish throughout, and I really love this piece. So yes, you could make one of these, but again, I feel like it was important to support a company that's inspired me to try to do this, and maybe even think it was something that could be done at home. So anyway, I've got some legit luthier tools. One other thing I did get, in addition to a razor saw, and this wasn't from Crimson, they were out of stock. I took a nod from their scrap wood tool handles, and I did order some feeler gauges from Amazon. It just had a crappy steel kind of handle case thing on it, and I did take a nod from Crimson and made my own cool little handle. It looks like it's kind of the same kind of a peened over type of thing you would find in a pocket knife with a brass nut, but it's actually a threaded screw. I did do a little bit different. It can only open from one side, so I kind of carved in a stop so it only opens one way. So I've got my feeler gauges. So obviously that's for checking neck relief and action and so on, and that one's really, really thin and I'm bending it. That's awesome. Anyway, this is probably a little too tightly made, but it's pretty cool. So I enjoy that. And that's kind of it for the new tools. Again, these planes, these are big deals to me to have. So I'm almost kind of glad my jointer went out. My jointer planer combo went out because I would not have been pursuing a number 7 quite the way that I did to acquire this. So I'm finally out of the Harbor Freight hand planes. Again, if that's all you can get, then that's fine. They work well enough to get by. But these were a screaming deal just because they looked as bad as they did when I got them, and they cleaned up so nicely. And I think the problem now is I've caught the vintage tool bug after working on these things. So I really hope I don't go down too far down that rabbit hole. But I think it's awesome to have some things that have some history, and to think about the things that these tools would have made in the past. it puts a smile on my face to know that they're going to actually be back in action and producing once again. So definitely this Bailey number 4 that's been in my family for a while, this Ohio King wood smoothing plane, and then this square, and of course my dividers here. That's really all the vintage tools I've got. So I don't have a ton. I'm not including these clamps, obviously, but yeah, having tools like that kind of is an inspiration. So hopefully I will do these things justice, and I will be a good steward of them until the next generation picks them up, because that's my goal, is to preserve them and be a good steward of them, and hopefully they will continue life past me, like I hope this workbench does. But anyway, those are the projects that are coming up. These are the tools that I've added to the tool wall to help facilitate some of those builds. So first up is going to be the acoustic panels. Next up is going to be a bass guitar pedal board and road case that's going to be hand built. Then hopefully I can start building some kit guitars and then a scratch build before the end of the year. And then throughout, I'm probably going to start doing a couple cover songs, because I think it's important for me to keep my playing chops up. Not that I really have any, obviously, but I want to pay tribute to some of the songs that have been inspiring me to play. Things that inspired me to pick up the instrument from the very start, and things that are inspiring me to keep on playing now, that I actually can, at least I think I can play well. Anyway, I've been yammering for a long time. Thanks for watching this episode. Hopefully I've been able to edit this down to something reasonable, and hopefully you'll be interested to see what comes next. So I've got a lot of plans, like I said, set for 2020, and hopefully I will be able to get those started really, really well soon. So I apologize for the delay in content since I finished the rack of bass. Obviously that was right around Christmas time, and then I decided to put a pallet wall up, as you saw in the music room when I did the flat wound versus round wound shootout. You hopefully noticed there's the room looked a little bit different. So I put pallet wall up much the same way I did in here, but just below the chair rail, which further complicates how I want to build acoustic panels, because instead of taking the chair rail down, I just made it worse by adding effectively wainscoting below out of pallet wood. So anyway, I've got that to deal with. But yeah, I think it's going to be fun this year. So I'm definitely going to start building some guitars from scratch. But first I want to do a kit or two, and then hopefully by then I will either lined up a bandsaw to do the resaw work that I need to get done, or I will have at least partnered with a local woodworker that would be gracious enough to make some cuts for me and mill some guitar ready type stock for me. So anyway, that's the plan. I'm going to go get after it, because I've been talking a lot.